I want to review several stocks tonight on a chart system. This is Wells Fargo's daily chart. You can see down here on the 16th of July, the stock was down quite a bit, around $20, and here we went up to $32 in a week. And where I think we're at on these banking stocks, specifically Wells Fargo and Bank of America is what we're going to talk about here, is I think they'll cool off a little bit, come back down in here around $26, $27. We're high on the stochastics here at the top, and as you've seen before, that we start to look for a downtrend of these. As you may have studied in the Wizard training course, the stochastics turn over and go down, and that's your earliest warning signal that the stock might be heading down. Then we're looking at MACD as well as the price charts, the moving averages going down. So let's take a look at Bank of America. This one looks the same as Wells Fargo. We're going to have to look tomorrow to see if these things go above this $35 here on Bank of America. And if it does, that's a very bullish sign that it could be heading up further. Let's take a look at a stock that I'm long, which is an ETF actually. It's a mutual fund that's short of financial stocks, not just these two stocks, but Merrill Lynch, JP Morgan, Lehman Brothers, Goldman Sachs, all kinds of banks as well. And I'm counting on that this one, I'm looking at this one as the MACD's at the bottom of the chart. I think I might be a little bit early on this. Started buying here and then made that little run for several days, and here we are moving it back up. So I'm going to be looking for, obviously, the stock, this ETF SKF, which is right up here in the upper left corner. This is meaning that you're long this ETF. That's basing your forecast that the financial stocks will go down and this ETF will go up in price. So naturally what we want to see is stochastics starting to move up. And you can see it's been moving down the last several days. Is clearly that I'm a little bit early. I might be a little premature that I went long this a couple trading sessions ago, but we'll watch how this works out. Let's move on to the XOI, which is the Amex Oil Index. You'll look at these indicators. The stochastics are starting to point up, and the MACD is starting to go up, as well as the moving averages. And this is the more typical look that you want to see in your indicators and in your chart, as opposed to what I just left was the SKF and the financials. Like I said, I might be a little early there, but here we're clearly getting indications that these oil might have a rebound as I've been anticipating. Let's take a look at some of the big oil companies, the Chevron, Texaco. You can see the same type of pattern. Stochastics pointing up, MACD starting to point up, and the moving average is starting to go up. So I'm expecting some sort of rebound that could last several weeks on this. Let's look at British Petroleum. I don't see near as strong of a chart action there, but we do see the indicators starting to point up a little more shallower. Let's move on to ConocoPhillips. Similar to the British Petroleum, a little on the weak side compared to Chevron. Let's take a look at some of the independents that we talked about on Thursday night. XTO, a weak-looking chart, but we do see the MACD flattening out, and we're looking for it to turn up here this week. ATPG, flat and going up, maybe flat and possibly, I might be a little early. Let's take a look at GDP, was a little more bullish the last few days. MACD is at the bottom, which is pretty unusual. Let's look at when the last time that was at the bottom. Yeah, it's been a couple years that the MACD's been this low. So we're going to have to take a look and see how Goodrich Petrol moves this week. Let's take a look at COG. So GDP has definitely been the strongest. Let's move on to another stock we talked about on Thursday night. Clean Harbor. MACD is still pointing out. My logic here is that we're going to have this stock as it hit right here on this bottom of these trend lines, and we're starting to head up, and this is the trend that's been going on for the last couple months. We're seeing if this pattern repeats. We also will look at these indicators. So the indicators I'm not using on this one quite as strong. I'm relying on a pattern that's been going on the last 2 months and seeing if this continues to move upward. This is a real gradual increase. Let's take a look at the agricultural chemical stocks. I've still been saying that I think this group has been getting lower lows and lower highs the last couple months, and it's not quite as clear if this is going to have a rebound and when. But so far we're looking at, here's AGU. We see the MACD has not come up, and it's still going down gradually. We see stochastics starting to move up, so that could be an early warning. The moving averages have starting to move up, so we'll keep an eye on these. Here's Monsanto, a lot more bullish of a pattern than the AGU. Clearly we're moving up on the MACD as well as stochastics, and a slight up increase of the price of the moving averages. Here's Mosaic, also the same group, not as probably the most negative of the three so far. Here's Potash, also similar to Mosaic. So we've got a split decision here on 2 out of 4 stocks. Just keep an eye on it. I'm thinking that there's still going to be a lower low. I don't see anything in this group that gets too exciting to go long or short. Here's CEDC. I've talked about this several times this last week. We got an increase of the stochastics. Still got a downtrend in the MACD. We've got a moving average starting to cross up. So this one looks along the bullish side. TXT, Textron. This one looks like a slightly bullish pattern. We're going to have to keep a fairly tight stop. It looks like to me that we're going to have a stop of about somewhere right in there. Looks like just under 42 to about 41.74. WP is still running up. Lumber, wood production, materials, and construction. We're still watching this as a possible short next week, and we're going to see how this acts, and this might be an idea. Here's Regeneron. It's a biotech stock. This might be a possibility to watch. I'm keeping an eye on it to see if there's any possible trade in here on the short side. Biotech's been getting a lot of money, so I'm going to be a little more cautious before I jump in on a short side of a biotech, because they've been getting a lot of money. Let's take one more idea. Yahoo. We probably all follow the story that Microsoft has been trying to buy these guys starting back in February with the $33 offer. This stock is below $20. Here's a very possible that we can have a pop-up to get 10 to 15% on this stock, even if there's no offer. But it looks like that this has been rebounded the last time. Just when it hits about under $20, I think this is worth a little bit money long, even though the indicators are not pointing up yet. You have a good night, and we'll talk to you Monday.